Yo, what's up? Diego here, music video director, content creator, and movie lover. Welcome to Movie Talk. This is Movie Talk episode 5. If you haven't watched an episode of Movie Talk yet, this is where we talk about several aspects in a film. Direction, cinematography, writing, story, casting characters, score, sound design. We rate and talk about each of those things individually. Then I give the film an overall rating at the end of this video. So stay tuned to see the rating of Jurassic World Dominion. Before we start this review, I love to talk about the channel a little bit. We talk about movies here all the time, different forms of entertainment. Check out the other things we do, and please subscribe to help the channel out. This is the final film in the trilogy of Jurassic World. This film is starring Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Neill, Dern, Jeff Goldblum, some of the original Jurassic Park cast, which is awesome to see. DeWanda Wise plays Kayla Watts, this cool, dope character in the movie that seems very actiony and prone to just get into things and get out of them easily. This is a Hollywood movie at its biggest. This film was directed by Colin Trevorrow, who directed the first Jurassic World movie. Dinosaurs are roaming free now at this point, causing a bit of trouble, coexisting with other animals and people. The story is following Owen and Claire, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, taking care of this child. And if you haven't watched the previous movies, you may not know, or I don't know if they revealed it already, but this child is a clone, or supposedly she's a clone. So she's a bit upset that she has to stay hidden because the world is searching for her, or different people are trying to search for her, and it's not safe for her to be out and about. This builds up some typical teen angst. Her curiosity and interest in the world that she's hidden from gets her caught eventually. Along with that, there's a baby velociraptor named Data, birthed by one of the velociraptors that Chris Pratt tended to in the previous Jurassic Worlds. Biosyn is the culprit here, kidnapping both that baby velociraptor and the clone child to do further studies for, I think, nefarious reasons. Biosyn, from the outside looking in, seems very clean, professional, meaningful, purposeful. They seem to be really doing important work into researching diseases. It's all a facade. The CEO is a pretty manipulative dude. One of the other side stories here is that Biosyn released locusts, bioengineered specifically to eat crops that were not grown with Biosyn seed. That side story connects Ellie and Dr. Alan Grant to go investigate Biosyn because they're realizing, specifically Ellie Sattler sees that these locusts are consuming crops, but they're avoiding crops grown with Biosyn seed. So Biosyn is evil. Okay, they're kidnapping children, they're releasing locusts, they lost control of the locusts, and the locusts are just going rampant, eating crops, causing a global food crisis. So the world is trying to discover where did these locusts come from because they're prehistoric. I think the film could have been shorter and it could have better communicated this narrative, but because of its long length, you can't really connect to any individual story. You just hop from one to one, seeing the progression of each, and you're just along for the ride, whether you like it or not. I give the story a 5 out of 10. It makes the characters feel like chess pieces, but I do respect this narrative that kind of unites everyone together, although the characters feel two-dimensional and you can't really attach yourself to any individual narratives per se. I think it's still kind of well written and clever how they unite everybody. Let's talk about writing. Owen Grady is played by Chris Pratt, and that character feels like very cardboard, two-dimensional-esque. I mean, there's not much there for you can grab. He shows up, saves the day, and he just has a hero face on majority of the time. The antagonist here is Biosyn, specifically so the CEO, Steve Jobs. Lewis Dodgson, played by Campbell Scott. They brought the characters back from Jurassic Park, but they still felt more like pawns and chess pieces to the overall narrative. I didn't even remember them really, so they didn't even do a good job at reintroducing who these individuals are. They're just like, hey, here you are, some fan service. We're returning these characters back, hope you enjoy it. There was a bit of a love story between those two characters too, Dr. Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler, but it felt kind of forced. I actually found Campbell Scott's character, Steve Jobs, pretty humorous because here he is, he's just like eating nuts, and he's supposed to be this like smart dude, but he kept making stupid mistakes. I think it's kind of cool how they knitted the two worlds together of Jurassic World and Jurassic Park and brought the characters together, but the overall narrative felt so convoluted and more focused in on action that it didn't really give me any exciting thrill to be in tune with the story and the writing. It all felt kind of a bit cheesy, forced, and you're just in for this long ride that really has no payoff to me. I give the running a 3 out of 10, respecting the complexity of building a narrative that unites all these characters, but at the end of the day, it feels extremely convoluted and almost unnecessary, and it felt like it was going a bit all over the place, which I understand maybe action movies are just that. There should be these like big pieces, but here is a film that kind of failed for me to keep me engaged throughout the whole piece. You don't really get a sense of a particular style from this director in this movie. I have to give it up to him though, because it seems like this project is a lot to be responsible for. It must be exciting to be connected to a series like this, connected to the Jurassic Park franchise. To me, where it all falls flat is that everything feels two-dimensional. There's never any moment you can really connect to the characters, since it seems like the film is more focused on moving the plot along with dialogue and action. The characters feel like chess pieces here to the bigger picture of the film. Imagine that feeling for 2 hours and 30 minutes. The movie feels like it goes a bit all over the place, seemingly taking inspiration from Star Wars, The Matrix, even I felt some vibes of Breaking Bad at some point. There are so many chase scenes in this film that at the end of it, you kind of feel exhausted and almost tuned out due to the fact that it is lengthy and it gets a bit repetitive. I give the direction a 4 out of 10. I felt no unique touch here, just a huge blockbuster trying to deliver thrills, but falling flat due to its lengthy duration and repetitive action scenes. The cinematography here is nothing to go wild about either. With the amount of wild action sequences in this movie, we really just get a lot of fast-paced shots, fast-paced cuts. There are moments where the landscapes look really beautiful, but also the CGI is kind of bad in certain moments. It takes you out of it. I feel like the cinematography is just another cog in the behemoth of this movie and doesn't really stand out whatsoever. It did a great job at capturing the story, but it was very generic. No moment really stood out to me necessarily. There's no particular meaningful shot or sequence. It's an action movie, you know? Like one example of good cinematography I think of is The Godfather and the introduction of Don Corleone, the darkness of that setting, the gloominess. It's establishing this underworld in the film that we're going to be watching. This ain't no Godfather, but my point is that there's nothing much to rave about in terms of the cinematography. I think it kept us thrilled and it did its job, but nothing in particular stands out. No character truly stands out here other than Jeff Goldblum because he's just a unique actor. Returning characters from Jurassic Park was neat, but they really just felt like pawns to the story. Chris Pratt felt like the generic white hero, savior, not much depth in his character. You could even see in his face in certain scenes, he's just like, it just seems a bit fake. It plays into the acting a bit too much, I feel like. Claire Deering goes through some emotional turmoil, kind of taking more seriously the loss of this clone child, like how she got kidnapped. She's taking that very serious. You get to see a little bit of that emotional turmoil, but still, I think that character falls a bit flat where it's just like that's her motivation and you don't get much out of her other than that mission she's trying to accomplish to get her back. It feels very Liam Neeson-esque, like Taken. I think Liam Neeson would have been a better fit, but due to the fact that these characters already exist in this franchise, we can't do that. But I would like to envision Liam Neeson kicking some dino ass. The score is quite generic. I felt moments where it kind of channeled Star Wars score, which that goes to show maybe there is some just like genericness going on in scores in terms of these blockbuster Hollywood movies. I'd give the score a 1 out of 10 and didn't stand out whatsoever. The Jurassic Park theme though is great, always. You know, that's really the savior here. The sound design is probably the best aspect of the movie since it has to do a really good job at world building, and it does. It does a great job at building suspense and creating unique sounds for the dinosaurs' roars and calls. I saw this in IMAX and there was a cool moment with the locust when Ellie and Dr. Alan Grant went down and found the locust lab in Biosyn. You could hear the fluttering of the wings and the surround sound made you feel like, oh man, am I in this lab with them? It was really neat. I definitely appreciate the work it takes to build out these scenes sonically and draw you in. There's another great scene, the Biosyn jungle, sanctuary, whatever you want to call it, where a dinosaur is creeping and I believe hunting down Claire's character, but Claire is just like going into the water slowly. But that was some great suspense where you could hear the feet like against the dirt. I really appreciated that moment. I think it was the best part of the film. I give the sound design a 6 out of 10. I give this movie a 4 out of 10. I think there's some enjoyable moments here, but overall it's a very inflated and forgettable end to the Jurassic World saga. Do you agree with me? Do you not? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts. Remember to like and subscribe as that helps the channel a lot.